Condemned to the void for refusing the captain, until one human defied every law. HFY Sci-Fi. The Varkon war carrier Obsidian Pike moved through deep space like a giant metal beast. Its engines growled. Its steel skin shivered under the pressure of the void. Inside, the hallways felt tight and cold, as if the ship itself disliked anyone walking through them. Lieutenant Elias Ward, the only human aboard, walked carefully along the dim corridor. His boots tapped against the floor in a slow rhythm. The Varkon gravity pressed down on him harder than Earth's, making every step feel like he carried a weight on his back. His Terran flight suit clung to him, protecting him but reminding him he did not belong here. Varkons were tall, armored aliens with hard plates growing from their shoulders and jaws. Their eyes glowed faint yellow. Every group he passed stopped to glare at him, whispering to each other in their rough language. To them, humans were weak. Soft. Easy to break. One massive Varkon engineer bumped his shoulder on purpose. "Watch it, bone skin," the alien growled. Elias didn't react. He only smiled lightly. "Sorry," he said. "Still getting used to your ship's gravity. Feels like walking through syrup." The Varkon narrowed his eyes. Annoyed Elias refused to react with fear or anger. Humans were confusing to them. Elias reached the bridge and sat at the secondary helm position. The primary navigator, a veteran named Torketh, flicked his thick tail once in irritation. "You will take us through the moving debris ahead," Torketh ordered. "Our commander wants to test human reflex claims." Elias said nothing. He placed his hands on the glowing holographic controls. He guided the massive war carrier through a swirling cluster of drifting rocks. The ship glided between jagged boulders, sliding through tight gaps with surprising grace. Even Torketh blinked twice in disbelief. When they passed the field without a single scratch, Torketh muttered, "Acceptable. For a human." Elias almost laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." But the moment of quiet didn't last. The bridge doors burst open with a harsh metal screech. 4 Varkon guards marched in, pushing a bound figure into the center of the room. Elias froze. His fingers tightened around the controls. The captive was a young alien woman, but unlike the armored Varkons, she looked almost fragile. Her skin was soft violet, faintly glowing under the bridge lights. Long black hair flowed down her back like liquid night. Her silver eyes held sharp defiance, even though chains bound her wrists. "The Illyrian heir," the lead guard announced. "Princess Lyra Valen secured as ordered." The Varkon commander, Relek Mar, rose from his chair. His armor clinked as he approached her. "Princess," he hissed, "your refusal has consequences." Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "I will never accept your proposal. I would rather die." Relek smiled, a slow, cruel curl of his lips. "That can be arranged. Guards, take her to the main airlock." The entire bridge went silent. Even the Varkons seemed startled. Elias felt his heartbeat slam inside his chest. The guards began dragging Lyra away. Her eyes, full of fear and pride, flicked toward Elias for a brief moment. His stomach twisted. Before he could stop himself, he spoke. "Commander, is that really necessary?" Every Varkon turned. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Relek's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Stay silent, human. This is not your concern." Elias lowered his eyes, pretending to obey. But inside, something shifted. Something deep and fierce. As Lyra was pulled out of the room, Elias could still feel her gaze in his mind. He knew what was coming. He knew the rules. He knew the punishment for interference. But he also knew one thing with absolute clarity. He could not let her die. And in that moment, in that cold alien ship drifting through the endless dark, Elias Ward made a choice. A dangerous choice. A human choice. A choice that would break every rule, and changed the fate of more than one world. Elias stayed in his seat only long enough for the bridge doors to close behind the guards. The moment Princess Lyra's footsteps faded, he knew he couldn't wait. His pulse hammered, loud enough that he wondered if the Varkans could hear it through the metal walls. He rose from the helm. "Human," Torketh hissed, "return to your station." But Elias acted first. His neural implant flashed to life with a soft click deep in his skull. A surge of combat stimulants rushed through his bloodstream. His senses sharpened. Colors brightened. Motion slowed. Every lesson from the Terran Flight Corps came flooding back. Every instinct screamed, "Move now." He stepped out of the bridge and into the corridor, walking fast, then running. He memorized the Obsidian Pike's layout weeks ago, expecting trouble, though never this kind. His boots slammed against the floor as he tore down the hall, passing Varkan crew who watched the human sprint with confusion and alarm. The airlock was on the far side of the ship. 4 guards. 1 helpless princess. 0 allies. Elias didn't care. He reached a junction where the corridors met. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement, the guards turning the corner with Lyra between them, her wrists chained, her steps stumbling. He jumped out into the open. "Stop!" 4 Varkan helmets turned toward him. Their shock lasted less than a second. "Move aside," the lead guard snapped, "or be crushed where you stand." Elias' breathing slowed. The world felt distant, quiet, sharp. "No," he said. Just that one word. Lyra's eyes widened. It was the first time she'd seen him without fear in his expression. The guard reached for his weapon. Elias acted first. He rushed forward with inhuman speed, boosted by the implant, and slammed his shoulder into the Varkan's chest. The alien stumbled back, more surprised than hurt. But surprise was enough. Elias hit the ground, rolled, and seized the guard's weapon before it could bounce away. A second Varkan charged. Elias fired. A stun bolt cracked through the air and sent the alien crashing to the floor. The corridor erupted into shouts. Crew members backed away, crowding the walls, terrified to interfere. 2 guards remained. They raised their blasters. But Elias was already moving. He dove sideways behind a support pillar. Energy bolts scorched the wall behind him. He took a single breath, then leaned out and fired twice. Both guards collapsed with heavy thuds. Silence fell over the corridor. Elias stood, chest heaving, heart racing. The weapon trembled slightly in his hand, not from fear, but from the intensity of his boosted senses. Lyra stared at him, shock and bewilderment mixing in her silver eyes. "You fought them all," she whispered. Elias moved to her side, pulling a multi-tool from his suit pocket and slicing the restraints. "I told you," he said, offering a small smile. "I don't like watching people get thrown out of airlocks." Her breathing shook as she rubbed her free wrists. "Why would you risk your life? You don't even know me." Elias met her gaze for a long moment. Because what they were about to do was wrong. And because humans don't walk away from something like that. The ship alarms suddenly flared to life. Commander Relek's voice echoed across the hall. "Attention all Varkan units. The human has attacked our guards. Capture him immediately. Kill if necessary. The prisoner is armed and dangerous." Lyra flinched. Elias grabbed her hand. "We need to go. Now." She hesitated only for a heartbeat, then nodded and followed. They ran together into the dim service corridors. Elias knew one truth now, stronger than any fear. There was no turning back. He had broken the first rule, and every other rule would fall next. But he would not let the princess die. Not while he still had breath in his lungs. Elias pulled Princess Lyra into a narrow side corridor just moments before a squad of Varkan soldiers thundered past. Their heavy boots shook the metal floor like distant thunder. "They're spreading out," Elias whispered. "Relek wants us trapped." Lyra pressed closer to him, her breathing quick and shaky. The violet glow of her skin pulsed faintly in the dim lights. Even frightened, she held a calm grace that Elias couldn't ignore. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To a place they won't expect," Elias replied. "The maintenance routes." They rushed through a low doorway, slipping behind a stack of coolant pipes. Elias dropped to one knee, removed a panel, and crawled inside the narrow metal shaft. Lyra followed, though her long hair snagged on a pipe, and she had to tug it free. The space was tight. Cold. Dusty. Only emergency lights pulsed in slow red flashes. Lyra whispered, "Do humans do this often? Break rules for strangers?" Elias let out a quick breath. "We break rules for the right strangers." That earned a very small smile from her. He guided them deeper into the maintenance network, turning left and right without hesitation. He'd memorized the ship, knowing one day he'd need an escape route, though he'd never imagined something like this. Behind them, metal clanged. Soldiers entering the shaft system. "We need to keep moving," Elias said. Lyra nodded and hurried beside him, her soft footsteps barely making a sound compared to his heavy boots. As they crawled through a tight bend, she winced. "What's wrong?" Elias asked. "The chains, their edges cut my wrists earlier." He gently took her hands, examining the small slashes. "Nothing deep, but still painful." "I'm sorry," he said softly. "You didn't cause it," she whispered. He reached into a small pouch on his suit and pulled out a strip of emergency medical tape. "Hold still." He wrapped her wrists carefully. His hands were warm, steady. Lyra watched him with wide silver eyes. "You risk everything," she murmured. "Why?" Elias paused. "I saw your face back there," he said quietly. "You weren't afraid of death. You were angry at injustice. That matters to me." Before she could answer, a new sound echoed through the metal shafts, a low hum growing stronger. Lyra tensed. "What is that?" "They're powering up the internal sensors," Elias said. "They'll track any warm-blooded life form in the vents." Lyra swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" Elias took a breath. "We move faster." They burst through another panel, dropping into a long service balcony high above a massive engine room. Giant power coils glowed blue below them, crackling with energy. The air vibrated with a constant mechanical rumble. "We have to cross this walkway," Elias said. "The auxiliary hangar is on the other side." Lyra stared at the narrow strip of metal suspended over the long fall. "That looks unsafe." "Extremely," Elias agreed. "But it's either that or get captured." He stepped onto the walkway. It creaked under his weight. Lyra followed, gripping the rails tightly. Halfway across, the ship trembled. Warning lights flashed. Relek's voice echoed over the intercom. "All sections, seal the hangar. Repeat, seal the hangar. The fugitives are headed there." Elias cursed under his breath. "Do they know our location?" Lyra asked. "Not yet," Elias said, "but they will." As they ran, a sudden blast shook the walkway. A support beam overhead snapped and fell toward them. "Lyra, down!" Elias slammed into her, pushing her flat against the metal floor as the beam crashed beside them, sending sparks everywhere. He shielded her with his body until the shaking stopped. Lyra looked up at him, breathless. "You saved me again." Elias offered his hand to pull her up. "Let's keep that streak going." They reached the far side of the walkway and slipped into another maintenance corridor. The hum of engines faded behind them, replaced by the distant echo of soldiers searching. Lyra touched the wall, guiding herself in the dark. "You know," she said softly, "I thought humans were gentle beings." We try to be, Elias replied. But we fight hard when it matters. He turned toward the next junction. We're close. One more route, and we'll reach the hangar. Lyra stepped beside him. Then let's keep moving. I trust you. Elias felt the weight of those words. Danger ahead or not, he wouldn't fail her. Not now. Not ever. Elias and Lyra reached the last maintenance hatch. Beyond it lay the auxiliary hangar, the only place small scout ships were kept. The only chance for escape. But when Elias pressed his ear to the panel, he froze. Footsteps. Voices. Too many. Lyra whispered, "Is it safe?" "No," Elias said. "Not even close." He slid the panel open just a crack. Bright lights flooded in. Dozens of Varkon soldiers stood on alert. Weapons ready. Formation tight. At the center of the hangar, Commander Rilek paced like a predator waiting for prey. An ambush. Lyra's face went pale. They knew. Elias closed the panel quietly. Yeah. They were expecting us. Lyra exhaled shakily. Then what now? We can't fight all of them. No, Elias said. We outthink them. He paused. An idea flickered in his mind, risky, messy, possibly stupid. But very human. He knelt beside Lyra. You said earlier your kind can connect to systems with touch. Lyra nodded. Yes. If I reach a main console, I can trigger almost anything. Good. Elias pointed to a small access terminal embedded in the wall beside the hangar door. From that node, you can reach the hangar's central control. Lyra stared at it, then stared at him. That panel is in full view of the soldiers. I know. And Rilek. I know. And if they see me, they'll. I know. Lyra inhaled slowly. You humans love danger, don't you? Only on special occasions. A small, doubtful smile appeared on her face. Elias unzipped his flight suit jacket and draped it over her. The oversized fabric disguised her shimmering gown and hid most of her hair. Keep your head down. Stay close behind me. Follow my steps. Lyra slipped into the shadows of his silhouette, the jacket swallowing her small frame. Elias opened the hatch fully and stepped out as casually as if he belonged there. A guard immediately stomped toward him. Halt. State purpose. Elias flashed a control card he'd stolen earlier. Maintenance order. Environmental filters malfunctioning. The guard frowned. No one told me. Then maybe you should ask your commander why he didn't keep you informed, Elias interrupted, nodding toward Rilek, who still had his back turned. If the filters fail, the whole hangar could lose pressure. The guard stiffened. No Varkon wanted to be the reason a hangar depressurized. Fine. Make it quick. Elias walked with controlled confidence toward the node. Lyra stayed behind him, head bowed, almost invisible under the jacket. When they reached the console, he positioned himself to block the view. Now, Elias whispered. Lyra lifted her hands and pressed her fingers to the glowing surface. Her silver eyes dimmed, then brightened as her connection activated. Give me 30 seconds, she breathed. Elias rested one hand casually on the console, the other on the stolen blaster hidden at his hip. Sweat formed on his neck. Rilek suddenly turned. His gaze locked on them. Elias' stomach dropped. He sees us, Elias whispered. Lyra didn't stop working. Rilek pointed. You. Human. Step away from that panel. Elias placed himself in front of Lyra entirely, blocking her from view. Working here, Commander, Elias said loudly. Almost finished. Rilek stepped forward. And alarms erupted. Lyra's voice trembled with triumph. Done. The hangar lights flashed red. Sirens howled. Atmospheric contamination detected. All personnel evacuate immediately. A thick white vapor burst from the vents, filling the hangar with blinding fog. Soldiers panicked out of instinct. Years of emergency training overpowered Relax shouted orders. Chaos exploded. Elias grabbed Lyra's hand. Time to go. They ran through the swirling fog toward the nearest scout ship, a sleek, sharp craft built for speed. Energy bolts fired blindly through the haze. A beam scorched the floor near Elias' foot. Keep running. Elias shouted. They sprinted up the small ramp. Elias slammed the door shut and rushed to the pilot's seat. Lyra strapped herself in, chest heaving. Relax's voice cut through the fog outside. Fire on the human's vessel. Bring it down. Elias powered up the ship. Hangar doors, he asked. Lyra pressed her hands to the interface beside her seat. I can open them. Just fly as soon as they move. Elias grinned despite everything. I always fly. The engines roared. Energy blasts hammered the hull. Metal dented. Panels shook. Lyra gasped. Doors opening. Light spilled into the hangar as the massive shutters pulled apart, revealing the star-filled void. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. Hold on, princess. He slammed the thrusters forward. The scout ship shot through the opening and burst into open space, leaving the fog, the soldiers, and the furious Commander Relax shrinking behind them. Lyra let out a breathless laugh. We escaped. Elias checked the sensors. Not yet, he said quietly. 3 Varkon interceptors were already launching after them. Lyra's smile faded. What now? Elias cracked his knuckles. Now, he said, we run like hell. The scout ship raced through open space, engines burning bright blue as Elias pushed the throttle to its limit. Behind them, the 3 Varkon interceptors spread out in a hunting formation, ready to strike from 3 angles. Lyra watched them on the screen, her silver eyes filled with worry. They're faster than before. Yeah, Elias muttered. Relax sent his elite hunters. A warning siren beeped sharply. Targeting lock, Lyra said. They're preparing to fire. Elias didn't answer. He simply smirked and shifted the ship sharply to the right, a sudden, aggressive turn that made Lyra gasp and grip her seat. Energy bolts sizzled past the ship, glowing streaks missing them by inches. Elias laughed softly. Still alive. Good sign. Lyra stared at him. Do humans always joke in deadly situations? Pretty much. The smile faded quickly as the interceptors corrected their course, much closer than before. Lyra pointed to the monitor. What is that ahead? Elias' eyes narrowed. A giant, rotating wall of stone fragments and glowing dust lay in their path, an unstable asteroid region. Huge rocks drifted in slow spirals, colliding and breaking apart. A deadly maze of spinning stone. The razor stone drift, Elias said. Perfect. Lyra blinked. Perfect. That place looks like it eats ships. That's the point. He aimed straight at the drifting chaos. Lyra grabbed his arm. Elias, that's not flying, that's suicide. Elias flashed her a confident grin. Trust me. I grew up dodging worse things than rocks. The scout ship plunged into the asteroid field. Rocks the size of houses spun past them. Shards smashed against each other, sending debris in every direction. Lyra held her breath as Elias weaved through the chaos with sharp, precise movements. Each turn was impossibly close, near misses that would have destroyed them instantly if he hesitated. Behind them, the Varkon hunters struggled to follow. One of the interceptors clipped a stone wall and spiraled into a larger boulder, exploding in a bright flash. Lyra gasped. 1 down. 2 to go, Elias said. But the ship shook violently as a chunk of rock scraped the left engine. Alarms blared. Lyra checked the diagnostics. The outer hull took damage. Left engine output down to 60%. Elias hissed through his teeth. We'll manage. They shot out of the razor stone drift and into calm space again. But the ship slowed from the damage. The remaining 2 interceptors gained ground. Lyra's voice trembled. They'll catch us. Not if we land first. A landing? Where? Elias pointed to a small moon ahead, dark, rocky, with patches of thin atmosphere. That one. We'll repair what we can. Lyra checked the scanner. No life. No structures. Good, Elias replied. Less people trying to kill us. The ship descended quickly, atmospheric friction making the hull glow. The left engine sputtered and coughed. Lyra gripped the seat. Is this normal? Nope. What do we do? Brace. The scout ship slammed into the surface in a hard, sliding crash. Dust exploded around them. Metal screeched. Sparks flew as the ship tore a long path across the rocky ground. Finally, the ship skidded to a stop at the edge of a small canyon. Silence filled the cockpit. Lyra exhaled shakily. That was terrible. Elias unbuckled his belt. Thank you. She blinked. That was a compliment. Closest thing you'll get right now. Lyra laughed softly despite the fear still lingering in her chest. They stepped out into the thin, cold air. The sky above was a deep orange, lit by a pair of tiny suns. Elias walked around the ship, checking the damage. The left engine was cracked. The stabilizers bent. A chunk of hull plating was missing entirely. Can you fix it? Lyra asked. Maybe, Elias said. But we'll need materials. Lyra tilted her head. From where? Elias pointed toward a field of shimmering crystal-like stones scattered around the canyon. That. Those rocks match the energy bleed signature we picked up. I can use the minerals to stabilize the engine. Lyra's eyes widened. This moon has usable resources. Lucky for us, Elias said. Unlucky for Relec. Lyra knelt beside one of the glowing stones, her fingers brushing over its surface. It feels alive, she whispered. Elias watched her, the way her hair moved in the faint wind, the glow of her skin under the alien suns. You did great back there, he said gently. Lyra looked up. You saved me twice now. Let's call it teamwork. She stood, stepping closer to him. You risk your life for someone you barely know. Elias shrugged. You're not just someone. Their eyes held each other's for a long moment. The cold air felt warmer than before. Then a beeping sound cut through the quiet, the proximity tracker. Elias checked the device. His face hardened. Lyra's voice trembled. What is it? Elias slowly looked up at her. They found us. Elias stared at the blinking tracker, its red light pulsing faster with every second. It felt like a heartbeat counting down to disaster. Lyra stepped closer. How many ships? Elias adjusted the scanner. Only one. A small one. Probably a scout. But if they've found us, the rest of Relec's fleet won't be far behind. Lyra's face tightened with worry. We have to move. Yeah, Elias agreed. But first we need the ship running. They worked quickly, gathering the glowing stones scattered across the canyon floor. Elias smashed some into pieces, testing the shimmer on their edges. These will work, he said. Barely. Lyra crouched beside him, helping him carry them back to the damaged engine. Her movements were graceful, but every few moments she glanced at the sky, waiting for a Varkon warship to burst through the clouds. They worked silently for several minutes. Then Lyra spoke softly. You know, I've met many species across the systems. Most care only for power. For gain. Her silver eyes met his. But you help even when it brings danger. Elias paused, holding a cracked stabilizer plate. Humans have a saying, he said. If someone needs help, you don't walk away. You step forward. Lyra studied him. And if stepping forward leads to death, then at least you didn't choose the coward's path. Lyra's gaze softened. You really believe that? Yeah, Elias said. I do. Before she could respond, the air itself trembled, a distant engine humming above the clouds. Lyra stiffened. They're here. Elias grabbed her wrist gently. No. That engine sound, it's not Varkon. Too rough. Too old. As the noise grew louder, a bulky, mismatched ship dropped through the thin atmosphere, patchwork metal, flickering engines, and a crooked nose that looked like it had lost 3 fights and won 1. Lyra tilted her head. Is that dangerous? Yes, Elias said. Very. The ship landed in a spray of dust, its rear thrusters hissing. A side door opened with a grinding creak. And out stepped a tall alien with 4 arms, rust-colored skin, and the permanent expression of someone annoyed at everything in the universe. Lyra whispered, friend or enemy? Elias sighed. Complicated. The alien smuggler, Ravos, gave a gravelly laugh. Ward. I picked up your distress signal. Never thought you'd actually be desperate enough to call me. Elias forced a smile. Good to see you too, Ravos. Ravos' bottom left arm gestured lazily. Looks like you're in trouble. Again. Lyra stepped slightly behind Elias, studying the newcomer carefully. Ravos noticed immediately. He raised his top right eyebrow ridge. Well now, this must be the princess everyone's screaming about on the channels. Elias tensed. How much do you know? Enough to know Rilek is hunting you. Enough to know there's a reward. Enough to know I should probably turn around and run. He paused. But I'm here, aren't I? That single line eased some of Elias' tension. Can you get us off this moon? Elias asked. Ravos nodded. Yeah. My ship can outrun anything short of a Varkon dreadnought. Lyra stepped forward. Then we should go. The interceptors will be here soon. Ravos grinned, all 4 arms crossed over his chest. Oh, I'm not leaving empty-handed. Elias froze. Ravos, don't. Ravos gestured at the crates inside Elias' damaged ship. I did a scan when I landed. You've got ether shards in there. Rare. Illegal. Worth enough to buy a small moon. Lyra's eyes widened. We need those to escape. Ravos shrugged. Maybe you do. But I like credits more than hero talk. Elias stepped between him and Lyra. You owe me, Ravos. I paid that debt last year. You saved my life once, Elias said. Let me repay the favor. Ravos hesitated for a long moment. The canyon wind whistled. Dust settled between them. Then Ravos sighed loudly. Fine. 1 shard. Just 1. And I get you off this rock. Lyra whispered, Elias, is this wise? No, Elias admitted. But it's the best deal we'll get. He handed Ravos a single glowing shard. The smuggler grinned and tucked it into a belt pouch. Good. Now move it. Rilek's ships just jumped into the system. You've got minutes. They rushed toward Ravos' patched-up freighter. But just as they neared the ramp, Lyra suddenly froze. Wait. Elias turned. What's wrong? She stared at the sky, a new signal appearing on the scanner she held. This one wasn't Varkon. It wasn't Ravos. It wasn't human. Her eyes widened in horror. My uncle's signature frequency, she whispered. He's here, and he's working with Relec. Elias felt a cold shock run through him. So they planned it together. Lyra's voice shook. This wasn't a kidnapping, it was a political trap. Ravos frowned. I don't know who your uncle is, princess, but his ship is coming in fast. Elias grabbed Lyra's hand. We don't have time. We leave. Now. Ravos extended all four arms. Get aboard. Before this mess gets worse. They ran up the ramp as engines roared. Ravos' ship lifted off the canyon floor. But as they rose into the thin atmosphere, a shadow fell over them, huge and dark. A massive cruiser. Its underside glowing with weapon lights. Lyra whispered, trembling. That's my uncle's flagship. Elias leaned forward, gripping the ship's interior rail. Then we're in for the fight of our lives. Ravos' freighter shot upward from the canyon, engines rumbling like thunder. Inside, Elias held onto the metal rail as the ship shook from sudden turbulence. Lyra stood beside him, eyes locked on the massive cruiser blocking the sky. Her voice was barely a whisper. That ship, that is the Crestfall Sovereign. My uncle's flagship. Elias' chest tightened. So he did betray you. Lyra nodded slowly, grief mixing with anger. He always wanted my father's throne. I didn't want to believe he'd join the Varkans, but now the truth is right above us. The cruiser's lights brightened. Weapon systems powering up. Ravos shouted from the cockpit, bad news. They've locked onto us. If they fire, we won't even be dust. Elias rushed forward. Can we outrun them? Not with that monster blocking the exit path, Ravos growled. We need a distraction, and we're fresh out of miracles. Lyra tightened her grip on Elias' sleeve. There must be a way, something we can do. Elias' eyes moved to the cargo hold, where the remaining ether shards still glowed faintly from inside crates. A dangerous idea formed in his mind. Ravos, how volatile are those shards? Ravos blinked. Volatile? Try explosive. Why? Elias turned to Lyra. We're going to light a spark your uncle won't forget. Lyra's breath caught. You want to detonate the shards? Not all of them, Elias said. Just one. In the right place. Ravos groaned. Ward, if you blow a shard inside my ship. I won't, Elias said. I'm dropping it outside. He grabbed one of the smaller shards. It hummed warmly in his hands. Open a side hatch, Elias said. Ravos hesitated, then slammed a lever. A small side panel slid open, wind blasting in. Lyra held onto Elias' arm tightly. This is madness, she whispered. Even for a human. He smiled softly. Humans do their best work when things get crazy. He looked at her for a long moment, the air humming between them. Thank you for trusting me, he said. Her silver eyes softened. I trust you more than anyone. He stepped to the open hatch. The cruiser above loomed like a metal giant preparing to strike. Elias tossed the shard into the sky. Ravos, hit the boosters. Ravos slammed a button. A flash erupted behind them, a bright, blue-white explosion that lit the sky like sunrise. The shockwave slammed into the cruiser. Its shields flared. Its formation trembled. For a moment, everything stopped. Then alarms screamed across Ravos' console. It worked, he shouted. Their sensors are blinded. Punch through. Elias yelled. Ravos aimed the freighter straight at a gap in the cruiser's defense grid, a tiny opening created by the explosion. The freighter tore through, engines roaring as they burst into open space. But they weren't safe yet. The Varkan war carrier Obsidian Pike appeared behind them, Commander Relek's furious voice echoing through the comms. Ward. Valen. Surrender now. Lyra pressed her hand to the comm switch. No, she said, her voice clear and strong. It is your turn to answer for what you've done. Relek roared in rage. Ravos snarled, they're firing. Everybody brace. A beam of plasma streaked toward them. And vanished into a swirling tear in space. A wormhole. Elias' eyes widened. That anomaly, it followed us from the drift? Ravos cursed. It's unstable. Going into that is suicide. Elias looked at Lyra. Her eyes reflected the wormhole's swirling light. Elias, she whispered. If we don't go in, Relek will catch us. My uncle will silence us. The truth will die. Elias took her hand. Then we take the wild path. She squeezed his fingers. Together. Ravos threw his hands up. If we die, I'm haunting both of you. The freighter angled toward the wormhole. Relek's ship fired again, too late. The freighter plunged into the swirling light. Space bent. Reality twisted. Lyra held Elias tightly, her heart racing against his arm. Then, with a violent jolt, the ship burst out into calm space. Elias blinked. Where are we? Ravos checked the scanner, disbelief on all four of his faces. You're not going to believe this. Through the viewport, floated a massive Terran station. Human cruisers surrounded it, and dozens of diplomatic ships hovered nearby. Lyra whispered, this is the Terran Unity Summit. Elias nodded slowly. We made it. Straight into the center of human territory. A Terran officer's voice crackled over comms. Unidentified vessel, identify yourself immediately. Elias stepped forward and activated the channel. Lieutenant Elias Ward, Terran Corps. I am escorting Princess Lyra Valen of the Ilarian Dominion. We carry evidence of a political conspiracy and attempted war, involving Varkon leaders and Ilarian traders. The channel went silent. Then the officer responded. Prepare for docking and escort. We'll take you in. Lyra let out a long breath. For the first time in days. I feel safe. Elias turned to her. You're safe with me. Her expression softened, warming like starlight. And you are safe with me. Their foreheads touched gently in the dim light. Outside, human and alien ships gathered for peace, unaware that the truth, the danger, and the hope of two worlds had just arrived. Elias whispered. Some rules are worth breaking. Lyra smiled. Especially when breaking them saves worlds. As their ship docked, Elias reached for her hand one last time. Whatever comes next, he said softly, we face it together. She nodded. Together. And side by side, they stepped into the unknown, ready to change the fate of galaxies.